Welcome back to Inside the Third Circle. We're looking at Carrick's Manchester United in possession. I've already had a look at them after the Arsenal game, but they're getting a lot of plaudits. Their proximity play, combination play. These are the discussions being had. Carrick himself's talked a little bit about the freedom of the players. As is Bruno Fernandes. So there's these kinds of topics going around, and a lot of praise, generally speaking, for Carrick's United, how they're playing with the ball, particularly, not so much without the ball. But having said that, I thought it would be interesting just to run a bit more of a critical eye over some of these proximity combination plays. Don't say relationism. Look out. But I think there's significant areas for improvement. Obviously, it's early for Carrick, but yeah, and while it's all nice to praise, it's also important in the analysis to get a little bit more specific about the criticisms. So, United in possession in this moment. Actually, Maguire there at left back. Shaw's gone high. Casemiro's filling in. And you can have, five across the front, not full width. Ahmad more naturally staying wide, and then you get a bit more rotation between Mbeumo, Fernandes, Cunha, not always occupying channels, but they are for a substantial amount of time. That's the organisation, that's their references. And you can see Mbeumo there just approaching the ball, dropping in. There's Shaw back to Maguire. So a little bit of ball orientation over on the side. We saw that against Arsenal. That's been a bit of a feature. Menu under a bit of pressure, no problem. Casemiro just going back against the momentum of the Tottenham press there, which is nice. Sandro Martinez, we've talked about him in the Arsenal video, about these line-breaking passes that go back inside against momentum. Really nice again in Mbeumo. But I think just worth highlighting, it's a foul on Mbeumo, but worth highlighting, and I'm going to talk a bit about Mbeumo in this video, in terms of his characteristics and how suited they are to being what I would call this link-up 9, which the link-up 9 is super important, right? And this, if you are going to play central combinations, whether you play one or two strikers, there you need some kind of high-quality link-up capacities in that role. And I just want to draw attention to something that's really important when playing this role, is to move towards the ball, right? Very simple principle, because usually you're going to get a lot of pressure from behind. But you can see just he's a little wrong-footed, maybe not reading the trajectory or the moment of the pass from Martinez, and he's not quite ready. You can see his body weight there, feet planted, he's back on his heels, and that allows the pressure to arrive. I think it's Romero coming in, and Romero goes in fairly aggressively as he's known to do, and it is a foul, but just worth pointing out at this initial stage that Mbeumo isn't moving. He could contact the ball already there. Bam, first time, go again, but a little bit flat-footed, gets caught, all okay. Clear foul. Man United get the ball moving again, nice and quick. There's Mbeumo again, going to receive, move again. Lissandro. Nice, just stud control, cool on the ball, away from pressure. Love that from Mainu. First time round the corner, pass and move. Interesting from Fernandes. Actually, something you see with Fernandes relatively often, more often than you probably would expect, is Mainu first time round the corner, and by the way, it's interesting to note just the three midfielders of United there very close together, ball orientation. But look at Fernandes here. I mean, it's pretty clear that you can take a touch into the space there. Maybe he's a little bit worried. I think it's Solanke putting back pressure on him. So maybe he sees that and he doesn't want to. But, I think there's a possibility to turn and go forwards there for Fernandes. Maybe he feels the pass is a little bit bouncy, a little bit hard, doesn't want to take that touch. It's early in the game, all those things. All okay. But a player of Fernandes' quality, I think it's possible to turn. And usually when you see something like that, if you go back and do a little bit, conduct a little bit of an investigation, you will see that Fernandes, if you watch the head, look for any scans or twitches. It's not always, possible to see everything from this distance, but you can generally see when players are making a scan or a clear scan. There isn't scanning, there isn't scanning, there isn't scanning, there isn't scanning. Nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. Ball's moving. Is there a quick glance? Difficult to tell. Probably not. And that results in the ball going back. So little bit there, you might call 360 perception on the moment of ball reception. And it's interesting, right? Because Fernandes is one of the best players in the world. He's a top performing player in the Premier League. That doesn't mean there can't be things. If you're the analyst, for Manchester United, if you're a coach for United, maybe that's a clip that you show Fernandes, and I think that's a reasonable, and useful discussion to be had, right? Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe you've missed a scan, whatever. But I think it's important to try and highlight this kind of stuff, right? Because it's not about the shapes of the team or the structures they're playing in, or Spurs are pressing in a 5-2-3. It's like they're not relevant here. It's just he's playing football, and it's about the perception of the player in that moment. And I think that's really important to get onto that level of analysis. But okay, they continue to play, continue to hold it on the left. They're not opening out the play to go wide again. Mainu, Casemiro, and Bruno close again. Casemiro likes these ones inside. Diagonal ball. There's Mbeumo, who's dropped again. Casemiro has a feel for this kind of play. I think it's no surprise he looks better now. He played in a more relational system for a long time for Real Madrid. He can read these kinds of dynamics. Into Mbeumo. And again, in terms of being a top link-up 9, for me, Mbeumo is not that player. He's a wide transition, direct, big space attacker, finisher, this kind of thing. This is not his strongest. I think he can do it to a certain level, but I don't think it's of the level that you'd require to the very top. Again, scanning. Is there scanning? Is there scanning? Is there scanning? Is there scanning? Not really. I think there's an option to lay it off to Bruno first time. There's clearly an option to turn. But there's just a miscontrol. It's not, it is what it is. But I think if you want to play the central combo stuff, the central 9 has to be good in the link-up moments. Next clip here. This is actually from a couple of minutes earlier, and just another little demonstration of what I was talking about with Fernandes. And maybe Mbeumo to a certain extent. It's Dalot who receives it. You can see players of central occupation from United. I think there's an expectation for the ball to go wide to Ahmad. Maybe just rolled in to Cunha here. But I like the inside diagonal idea from Dalot. I don't know how tuned in to the possibility of it Bruno and Mbeumo are. Like the movement from Mbeumo looks to be in behind, rather than maybe expecting what could be a dummy or a leave from Bruno. Maybe Romero's too close, but I think there's a possibility for a dummy there. And Mbeumo could receive it. He's not in the worst position there. That could be a classic Courtois-Escudinha there. Kind of York and Cole combination that Old Trafford, I'm sure, remembers very well. And was very, very common, by the way, in Alex Ferguson's attacking organisation. To see these inside diagonals, little overs, dummies, flicks, through the centre of the pitch. Very common. So if you're talking about like Man United DNA, then there's not much more classic than that kind of move. And so let's just take a look at some of those Ferguson era combinations. Classic from the Nou Camp, Champions League. York over for Cole, give and go, Cole finish, classic stuff. But it's not okay. So it's you can show these clips and say, yeah, isn't this nice? It's a bit of a nostalgia trip. Cole and York, what a great partnership, etc. But like, it's really good and useful to use these clips to demonstrate the tactical advantage of diagonality in combination play, because it's not a coincidence that these combinations happen along diagonal lines. They can happen vertically too, and to varying degrees, but a diagonal pass is extremely useful. And perhaps, there's various advantages to it. We talked about these, Martin and I, in the podcast episode, Total Diagonality on the third circle. You can check that out. But the diagonal ball allows the receiver, right, the body orientation to be open. So, for example, can see where the defender's coming, can scan towards the goal and see where they want to go, see the direction that they would like to progress the ball in. And it's useful to see where you're going, right, in any situation. Key here is to note that the defender, this Barcelona defender here, is approaching on a vertical axis, right? They're moving vertically up the pitch from their goal towards the opponent goal. But the ball is moving diagonally, which means that is open. If it's vertical, if it's a vertical pass received by York, the dummy is not open because it will be blocked. But the diagonality of the pass opens up that progressive shadow passing option. And it's deceiving, it's confusing, and it broadens the range of possibilities substantially for the receiver. And Colin York, I think, instinctively had a connection along that line. Van Gaal not happy. Blomqvist, I think, there on the left wing. Ball inside. This time Cole. Look at the body shape of the Brøndby defender facing forwards. The ball is not going for on a vertical axis. On a diagonal axis inside. Allows the shadow pass, deceiving step over. There we go. And it wasn't just Cole and York. These types of combinations were pretty prevalent throughout Ferguson, and not just Ferguson, in many more relational attacks. But why? Because it's a very effective way of doing things, right? This time it's Solskjaer approaching the ball carrier. Again, defender, vertical, pass diagonal. Late decision from Solskjaer. Look how Cole perceives it. Moving already, he's expecting it. Think of this Bruno and Mbeumo example we're talking about in the Spurs game. Look at how they're linked, right, in their perception along a diagonal trajectory, right? It's an alignment of intention, like a shared language. It's an understanding of what's going on. The opposition, it's difficult for them to pick up on in the moment. Didn't always result in goals, and they weren't always dummies. Here's Irwin playing inside to Cole, again along the diagonal. Third men running. It's Giggs and Butt. There's Keane holding. Cole, again, a late decision, right? Look at the body orientation, the diagonality. He's not facing his own goal. He's open. He can see a good chunk of the pitch that he wants to progress into. Enables the late decision to, while the ball is travelling, to perceive where their teammates are moving, where to cushion the ball to. It's Butt who picks it up. Continue on the inside diagonal. Giggs moving inside. Cole finds him again. And, this is, when United fans are talking about the DNA, I guess they mean, generally speaking, brave, courageous, adventurous, attacking football. But I think tactically that manifests in things like this, in inside diagonal combinations, in spontaneous, intuitive collaborations between attacking players may seem a little off the cuff, and in some sense they are, but in some sense they're not. They're speaking the same language. And I think, Manchester United fans certainly remember those moments and like them. And would be nice to see some more of them in a modern contemporary context, which I think is completely reasonable. I also think it's a good idea from a functional perspective, like it works. Of course, the system has to be geared to allowing it to work, but we don't see nearly enough of these types of combinations in modern football. So if Carrick and his staff can put some intentionality behind these types of play, I think it would be really effective. Okay, but we're going through some of the issues that they may have in trying to implement that. But the historical context is there. It's nice to use some examples from the past in tactical analysis, and maybe we can give a bit of identity to what that kind of mythical Manchester United DNA actually is. But Bruno, again, not really tuned into it. Was there scanning of the shoulder to see where Mbeumo was? Maybe, but it's not resulted in a flick or a leave or a dummy, and the play breaks down. Difficult central turnover. Of course, this is why so many coaches don't want to do this, right? Because if you lose the ball right there, it's a lot worse than losing it over on the side higher up the pitch, because now Tottenham have players they can attack from many different angles, right? They have players around the ball, they can attack, couple of passes, counter press isn't exactly crazy. I think Bruno's complaining about to the referee there. And actually Tottenham move forward from that. So it's actually a good example of why coaches don't like to do this kind of. I hate those passes. Those like the striker running away from goal. There's free players inside if they can work some kind of opening, but playing it to strikers running away from goal while they're marked, you see it so often. You often see it in those underlapping situations on wide as well, like away from goal, marked, no support. It just kills the attack. Really dislike those passes. But yeah, the inside diagonal there, interesting to see it, right? Interesting to see it attempted and it not work. And I wonder if that's something that will get worked on explicitly by Carrick and the coaching staff. Because you don't want these... by the way, Fulham's penalty, what came from a failed central combination, it was Sesko who let the ball, who gave it away. There was moments to counter-press after that, but it resulted in that penalty for Fulham, which got them back into the game. It's the goal kick situation for United. It's actually Dalot and Martinez deepest. It's actually Maguire there. Casemiro, Mainu, Shaw, Mbeumo, Cunha, Fernandes, Ahmad. And that it's man for man from Spurs. Nothing particularly interesting there. General, general structural approach there. A little bit of switching going on, but yeah, man marking. I guess it's interesting seeing Maguire in there. Amorim got a lot of criticism for for centre back stepping forward, but I get the processes were a lot different, I suppose. But I just we're talking about Manchester United here, but from Spurs' perspective, I thought this was really bad. In the middle of the pitch, it's actually Palhinha who stepped on to Mainu there. But it's man-to-man marking, and already like the separation to allow that chipped one into Casemiro, I think's bad. But look at Palhinha, like he just lets Mainu walk away from him. He's walking, but like completely not tuned in to being man for man here. The two central players for Spurs, and look at the distance there from Palhinha before he does anything. Easy ball from Casemiro, and this, I don't know what this slide. That's a pretty worrying sign, I would say, when players are doing things like this. That's very easy to go through. That's Ahmad, who's drifted central. Bruno going deep. Not too much, I don't think, clear structure now at this point. I think they're just playing. give and go from Mainu. He likes a pass and move game into Bruno. Now again, okay, easy to overlook these things. And Mbeumo is 9. Bruno with the ball at his feet. At this point, I think Mbeumo has to realise, what are the chances of Bruno putting one on a plate here for Mbeumo to finish? It's a very difficult pass. Even more now. It's really not on. I think Mbeumo can already be thinking, come in here, because that low pass, reversed, is on. This, over the top, round the back, that's, it's not really on in that situation. But Mbeumo isn't really thinking about this kind of stuff, right? He's much more of a in-behind, direct type finisher than someone who naturally drops in. And if he did naturally drop in, if he was already, let's say, about here, now Bruno's winding it up, again, is that pass on? Not really. If Mbeumo reads that and can come closer, then you have a very interesting situation, because the ball does go low. Maybe, it's not easy. Maybe it is a little bit close to the defender, but if Mbeumo is already here, I think he gets this, moves to it, and if Mbeumo contacts it there, he has third man runners, right? 2 options. But Mbeumo is over there. He doesn't read to come short because he's not a natural link-up player. It's not his characteristics, which I think is important for United to think about. Is Cunha better in there? Sesko also likes to attack the box. He has moments when you see him link up. For me, Xerxes is the clearest option in there. But then, of course, that means a bit of a reshuffle. But I think to be serious about these types of inside plays on diagonals and combinations, you need a real specialist in there. And I don't think Mbeumo, that's not his strength. It's not about being, it's not about he's better than him. It's about what's your suitability. And yeah, again, the move breaks down when there is potential for a bit more there. Into the second half, and we'll keep the focus on Mbeumo. Cunha receiving, Casemiro keeping it on the side with Lissandro and Shaw. And now we start to see these plays from Carrick's team. Shaw looking inside, right? These inside diagonals. Very important. I talk about them a lot. And Shaw with the outside of the left there, quite nice, just round the corner. And he might be going for Casemiro, but Mbeumo's there. And again, I think Mbeumo can do better there. In these kinds of situations, as the ball is receiving to it, there's a simple one touch just into Casemiro's path. I mean, you could reverse it immediately to Cunha. Could just go Casemiro, Cunha. There's also then Bruno's going to be threatening into the box. But needing the touch, needing another touch, not what's required in that moment. And this is what I mean, right, by link-up characteristics. It's this, how well are you perceiving as the ball is arriving at you, where the players are in support around you, where are they moving, what's their direction, what kind of weighted pass just needs to be cushioned or reversed if you're going for Cunha or if it's for Casemiro. But Mbeumo isn't doing that here, and that results in these touches. The chance disappears. And they're pretty good situations. Again, we have Lissandro controlling. I think it's Cunha makes a run to depth. They try that one. Not a massive fan of these straight passes. Casemiro controlling. Mainu, nice reverse. Again, we see these now a bit more with Carrick. These inside reverses, inside passes against momentum. I just want to draw attention again. Is Mbeumo expecting it? If he is, can he step towards the ball? Because again, you're going to get big pressure receiving these in the central zones. Can you, again, look at the body, look at the movement of Mbeumo? He's not stepping towards the ball. His body's straight, right? And you can see the momentum of the defensive pressure is coming towards him. Again, Mbeumo could contact the ball there. Set back for Casemiro. Round the corner for Cunha. Flick round the other side for Fernandes. These are all on. And again, if you if you want to play this type of combination football and be successful in the highest level, then you have to be able to make a lot of these opportunities. And okay, not everyone is Benzema, but this is what we're talking about, this level of ability to deal with these situations. Breaks down again. Okay, Spurs are down to 10. They're struggling to get out, so United can have another go. Now, Cunha, first time. More natural, right? Knows where the player is as the ball arrives to him. Little tap. And United make the combo. And look, now I verge on now being overcritical, but I'm going to do it anyway because I'm on a bit of a roll with this. But okay, nice from Cunha for Mbeumo. Could it go back immediately? Tap, tap. Straight back to Cunha. Because if you actually go forward and see when Cunha receives it, he actually very nearly gets snagged. He actually has to lift the ball and flick it with the outside of his foot and actually gets taken out of the game. Bit of a painful one. Did that need to happen? Remember against Arsenal, remember Fernandes and Dorgu. It went first time, then first time, first time. Mbeumo, touch. Could it be Mbeumo, right foot, straight back to Cunha, or in there? Maybe it goes in. I think it's Ahmad there, central. Touch. All the time the pressure's getting closer. Another touch. So I think there's 3 touches, right? 1, 2, yeah. So touch. All the time the pressure's getting closer. The pass eventually comes now. Okay, it works. I'm not being, to be overly critical, but it's there. And then, I think Bruno, Dallo would probably say, hey, give me that one on the outside. Yeah, he can shoot, but there's people in the way. Dallo's free in. I prefer a little one on the outside there. But an example of how the combinations work, right? But it's key that this first one from Cunha is smooth. Boom. That combo is smooth. Has to be. Mbeumo, okay. A little bit later in the second half, and United attacking again. Let's keep an eye on Mbeumo. A little movement in behind there. Is Maguire going to play one over the top? No, but okay. Just pushing the back line. Bruno out to Ahmad. Underlap from Bruno. Give and go. So yeah, in terms of like the striker perception in this moment, you're watching the play develop, and you can see that Bruno's gone for this underlap. And is Ahmad going to play that channel ball? If he does, obviously you want to be well positioned to make some kind of movement towards the box to finish. But I think as soon you can see there, potential for the ball to be played. But I think as soon as this happens, when Ahmad checks out of that pass, then I think that has to be interpreted, right? And I think link up strikers will interpret that. These are the kind of details I'm talking about, like perceptual details. And again, not about being right or wrong, but in a system which is geared towards close proximity central combinations, relational attacking, then this stuff is super important. And Mbeumo isn't really perceiving that way, and he's not really interpreting that way. And as you can see, the ball does go in, but there's anticipation isn't there. It might have been close to get there anyway, but I think in this moment, if the movement starts quickly and naturally, and there's a sharp movement in there already, I think Mbeumo can be quite well positioned. And as that ball's moving, I think it's comfortable that he could be there. Maybe Casemiro would see him. There's another chance for a layoff or a movement, but there just isn't that type of perception, right? That type of game interpretation from Mbeumo. And I guess just a final clip here. Some of the same themes. United, it's only 1-0 at this point, so the game's still in the balance. United on the attack. Lissandro again. I suppose, again, it's just a comment on, the characteristics of the players making the combinations. Also, there's this like line of 6 across the pitch. It's not ideal to have so many players almost on the same horizontal line there. So it's a vertical pass with these horizontal line. It's not easy for different players to get involved in the combination moment. And this one's Casemiro looking for an Mbeumo. Again, difficult for Cunha to because of the vertical pass. It's a short one. It has to be played in quick. It doesn't give Cunha much time, let's say, to go and support Casemiro. And it's maybe Casemiro and Mbeumo not the ideal characteristics when you've got guys like Cunha, Bruno. I also mentioned Xerxes here, and then straight into another one. We see Cunha. Bruno's over here. Can Bruno come and play? Like, why not? Why not Bruno come closer? Ahmad's on the right, no problem. Dalot's also there. I feel like Fernandez and Cunha can get involved in these situations. Mbeumo does come and show for it, so that's nice. Coming to show. It's a diagonal one is a little bit better, gives more options for the receiver. Could Menu pass and move as well, so he can go in there quickly? Could Bruno be closer? All these things. And Mbeumo tries the flick, right? He tries it with Casemiro, tries the back heel. Again, it's one of those ones again where it's not bad. Like, it's a flick that doesn't really have any deception. Like, the point of a back flick or a trick or some kind of shadow play like that is to deceive. But actually, if you freeze it there, Dragason's already read it. So maybe again a late scan means that maybe Mbeumo might choose another option if there was one closer. A little bit more deception on Casemiro's, but difficult, and it breaks down again. So I think there's a lot to like with what Carrick United are doing, but I would say that for it to be like as effective as it needs to be, there probably needs to be maybe a look at the characteristics of the guys involved in these moments, a bit more of an alignment of the perception along diagonals of the combination moments. So it'll definitely be interesting to see how this style of play develops and evolves.